in the Jubilee House, in government, what's going on in your minds? What's the conversation that is going on now? Because you are making some impacts as far as the economic front is concerned. So you begin to feel, oh God, don't let this happen, because it will derail the efforts we have made so far.
Well, it depends on the fundamentals that you have. You see, when the MPP had a difficulty with the economy, it was because the fundamentals were weak. They simply did not exist at the time. You see, when the Russian-Ukraine conflict struck in February, the economy had been on a massive decline, at least since 2001. Around that time, the cedi was tanking. They moved from 6 cedis. In fact, by 2021, the cedi was around 5 cedis to $1. By 2022, it moved from 6 cedis to 17 cedis. When you have that, it is going to impact your economy in ways that are more profound than when it is stable. So, for instance, if you bought oil at $100 a barrel, and your cedi is trading at 17 Ghana cedis to the dollar, a barrel immediately costs 3,700 cedis. However, if as the cedi is now around 10.6, if you buy the same $100 per barrel of oil, your bill is around 1,000 cedis or 1,100 cedis. So its impact in terms of transmission to the consumer is lower. That is why it is important to have strong economic fundamentals. Something since 2015, we've had a deregulated oil market, at least in the downstream. What that simply means is that it is the factors of production that account for pricing. There are 3 of these. There's a world market price of oil. These days, we bring in refined products. That one nobody controls. But we certainly control the other 2, taxation and then the exchange rate. In the case of the MPP, they failed on all these 3. In fact, when they came to power, they increased the SLA and imposed a number of taxes on fuel and increased some other handles. And then the cedi was completely destroyed. That immediately increased the cost of fuel at the point. So as I've indicated to you, even if the world market price rises and the cedi remains stable and rallies strongly as it is doing now, the impact will be more limited than it was under the MPP. The other issue that I want to raise is that I personally do not foresee this war extending into a protracted conflict for many reasons. If the US allies, UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and co. continue to take the hits, it is going to pile up pressure on them to amend their stance. Domestically, there is some opposition. It has electoral consequences. You know how war can be a contentious issue in the US. That also will be brought to bear. If the US economy itself begins to take a hit, they are going to have to amend their ways. I do not foresee that this conflict will be prolonged. Of course, war in itself creates difficulties, especially in the immediate vicinity where it is happening. Right. So there have been disruptions to global trade. There have been disruptions to global travel. I don't foresee that going on beyond an extended period of time. Now, gold. I don't think there's any shortage of markets for gold. It may be true that the UAE and India are primary, markets. I don't think that there's a shortage globally for where we can sell the gold. If gold prices surge as a result of this conflict, it will inure to our benefit, because gold has proven to be a valuable metal. What happens is that because of total gold prices will continue to
because of its value in the next 3 years.
Because of its value, anytime you want to sell, you get an instant market. That is the beauty about having gold. And we've put in place an arrangement that ensures a sustainable supply of gold that we can use to mitigate the problem. Somebody raised the issue about Tor. Something. Even if we sell our oil to Tor, we still have to sell it at the market rate. We cannot subsidize the oil we produce here just for purpose of domestic production. What happens is that if you refine crude oil locally, you cut out freight, which would come in if you import, and then margins that those who produce it outside place on it when you go to buy it. Right. So it is certainly going to be cheaper, but it is not as simple and straightforward as people make it sound. When you produce crude oil in Ghana and you give it to Tor, you have to sell it at the prevailing world markets. Right? This is the other contributing factors to price that is lowered. So that one must be placed on. It's not as though you can just take your oil and give it to Tor cheaper than they would get it. In fact, it is possible to get imported crude oil cheaper. And mind you, ours is also light crude. It is sweet light crude, so it has a premium. So it is on the world market, it is more expensive than other brands of crude oil.
So you seem to bank your faith on the fact that we have great reserves. Our fundamentals are looking good. But the question I put to Bright, is there something you are doing deliberate because of what is happening?
Oh, of course. And the energy minister has been busy meeting with players to see how this can. It is a duty of government to take steps in times of crisis to prove citizens against hardships. And that is why we foresaw this and decided that the fundamentals need to be brought under control. And I wish to stress again that it was not only the world market price of crude oil that created the problem for the NPP government in 2022. Long before that, the economy had been declining. So that amplified the effects of what had happened in Russia and Ukraine. That is not the situation now.
Okay.
In terms of reserves, what happens simply is that it gives you a certain buffer if push comes to shove when you are not having imports. But it is something that you can use to mitigate the effects. Even if there's an increase, it is unlikely to get to the levels. Because at some point, they were selling diesel for 23 cedis. That was when the cedi went to 17 cedis. If you do the multiplication, it's clear and straightforward that you are not going to have that effect if the fundamentals are stronger now than they were under the NPP. It is a regrettable situation.
Okay, so
but you have to be prepared.
Yes, Bright, I heard you trying to make a